Christian Robinson, who had been documenting Michael's experiences on the road and at home on videotape for about 2 years, sat down with mother and son at a private home to ask questions about the stars' relationship with them. He asked if there had ever been any inappropriate behavior on Michael's part. They, Gavin, his sister Devlin, brother Star, and mother Janet, answered and were very upfront and said absolutely not. He later maintained, and during this interview, I told him to speak truthfully probably more than 30 times. I kept reminding him, I want you to tell the truth. Tell your story. Dell felt that a miracle had taken place, Robinson recalled when speaking of Gavin's recovery. He says that Gavin and Starr insisted to him that whenever they slept in the same room with Michael, they slept on the bed and he slept on the floor. They were so resolute in their answers, almost as if they were getting mad at me. Why are you asking me this? Michael is innocent. He says that the family is not coached, and the family was incredibly passionate, talking about Jesus and God and Michael as the ultimate father figure. As mentioned earlier in this text, Michael's rebuttal was finally broadcast. The awkwardly titled "The Michael Jackson Interview," the footage never meant to see, excuse me, but it didn't change the way people thought about him. His supporters still believed in him, and his detractors remained critical of him. The footage of Michael's accuser in the documentary is unsettling, especially in light of the new charges. Gavin is bald, a result of chemotherapy, and according to the documentary, should have been dead by that time but was alive thanks to his association with Michael Jackson. There is footage of the youngster in his hospital bed of him being pushed in a wheelchair with Michael at his side. There is more footage of him walking with Michael through Neverland. Gavin in a yellow baseball jersey and the superstar in head to toe black and holding an umbrella as the shield from the sun. The two are cocooned within the pleasant, familiar surroundings of Neverland, lost in conversation in their own world. Camaraderie was evident between Michael and Gavin, the kind that springs from shared experiences and genuine affection. However, anyone who knows Michael and has a memory for the past could look at the footage and also the scenes of the two in the Poop Smear documentary and sense that once again, Gavin had Michael had gone way too far with this kid, as he did with Jordan. He gave himself over to the youngster. He has no boundaries with anyone under the age of 14. Michael Jackson puts himself right out there. No walls of dens, no safety zone, maybe, it might be argued. No sense either. He simply hopes that the boy in his family will have the best intentions for him as just he feels as for himself. In some ways, it's coincidental, for a sort of his made to be so naive is somehow refreshing. However, there's still a dysfunction attached to such bonding with children who are not his own. It's something that should be addressed in his life because obviously it could be led to big trouble for him and also for the youngster. As a result of the footage, Gavin's world entirely changed. Since Mr. Poop Smear's documentary aired, Gavin and his mother have gone into seclusion. After being bombarded for requests for interviews from tabloids around the world, Anton Mariupovich, the documentary's narrator, he also read a statement from Janet Ventura Alviso. I'm appalled at the way my son has been exploited by a modern poop smear. The relationship that Michael has with my children is a beautiful, loving father, sons, and daughter one. To my children and me, Michael is a part of my family. In addition, concluded Povich, Janet was considering legal action against Martin Poopsmear for including her son in the special without her consent. And true, the boy should not have been in either show, Martin Poopsmear's or Michael Jackson's. and both are equally guilty of having exploited him for their own purposes. Some argue that Janet doesn't acquit herself either. However, parental guidance and direction in matters having to do with children at Neverland is always a big part of the mystery surrounding sleepovers at the ranch. Michael's documentary aired and people quickly forgot about it. It was the modern poop smear program, however, that continued to pose a problem, especially when concerned mental health professionals began to lodge complaints about it. A number of psychologists, psychiatrists, and other child advocates, including Dr. Carol Lieberman of Beverly Hills, wrote letters of concern to the Santa Barbara Child Protective Services and the Los Angeles Child Welfare Department. I felt that enough is enough, said Dr. Lieberman, who lodged her official complaint on February 11th, 2003. I couldn't believe that the world was standing by and letting these children get potentially harmed. Others, like school teachers in Los Angeles County, also voiced concern. One contacted the Los Angeles Department of Child and Family Services, DCFS, saying that she felt what was seen in the poop smear documentary between Michael and Gavin Arvizo looked strange and inappropriate. Not only did the teacher feel that the relationship between the two should be investigated, she also raised questions as to what kind of mother would allow her child to be seen in such circumstances. After receiving a few letters himself, Santa Barbara District Attorney Tom Snedden took the position on what appeared on screen. It's no substitute for credible cooperative victims. He didn't seem interested in pursuing Michael Jackson again. However, he actually was interested. He just didn't want to tip his hand in the matter, at least not yet. On February 14th, 2003, the DCCS began its investigation. 4 days later, on February 18th, the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department began its own investigation in Street. Michael and his camp did not know about the Sheriff's Department's inquiry. However, they found out that the DCFS's immediately because Janet Ventura Alviso telephoned as soon as she was contacted. Michael was perplexed. What the hell? He asked one of his representatives. Someone can call out of the blue and they start an investigation? When could I when told what such was the case, Muggle decided he wanted to know how much as he could ab- about the questions that would be asked by the officials, and the answers provided by Gavin and his mother. Shortly thereafter, DCFS representatives arranged that two social workers met with a family at the Los Angeles apartment of Janet's boyfriend. At the same time, Michael arranged to have his own representation present at the meeting. An investigator and also the fiance of comedian Chris Tucker, Tucker's future wife, is a mutual friend of Janet's and Michael's. When the caseworkers arrived for the interview, the three children were sitting in front of a television, mesmerized by a video of Michael. According to the tape recordings made that day by Michael's camp, Janet said that she was unaware of the nature of the allegations that had been made against Michael. He wanted to be she said she wanted to be present for the interview with each of her children and wondered, what are my rights? What are their rights? She seemed scared. The social workers told her that their agenda would be made clear to her during the course of questioning. They also insisted that the Jackson representatives leave the room. A frightened Janet asked for a moment alone with the Jackson investigator. The two then discussed how to tape record the interview with the DCFS in a manner. The Jackson representative told her that won't be suspicious. You don't have to do anything, he told her, according to the tape recording. On the tape, it sounds as if he was somehow affixing a microphone to her clothing. It's working, he assured her. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department has on file details of the interview between the Arvizo family and the DCFS. Michael is like a father to me, Gavin told the social workers. Has he ever done He's never done anything to me. Gavin said never slept in bed with Michael. Furthermore, Janet said that she was always aware of what goes on in Neverland. She elaborated, Michael is like a father to my children. He loves them and I trust my children with him, she said. That Michael was kind and misunderstood. She described him as an important part of her son's recovery from cancer. She said that there were times when her children would be on Michael's bed watching TV and eating s'mores, but for the allegations that they shared in bed, it is no. She insisted that her children were never alone with Jackson. There's always someone around. She concluded that Michael had never been anything but wonderful. My children have never felt uncomfortable in his presence. Michael has been a blessing. According to the report, Gavin's older sister, Devlin, was teary eyed during the interview. Michael is so kind and loving, she said. Gavin's father, David Avizo, was interviewed by the DCFS separately from the others. There's no reason to suspect any wrongdoing by Michael, he said. He added that he, too, attributed his son's recovery to Michael. Some observers have wondered why Michael had his own representatives at the apartment for the inquiry by the DCFS. According to DCFS standards, Janet Ventura Avizo and her children should be interviewed without anyone present, and tape recordings of their interviews should not have been made by her for Michael Jackson or for someone working for him. Of course, the Jackson camp wanted to be there for one simple and obvious reason. They wanted to know what was going to be alleged. If they were able to get away with having someone present to find out what was being said, of course, they were trying to do it. On the tape, Jenny insisted that Jackson's representatives were there per my invitation, per my request. Later, after reviewing all evidence available at the time, the Department of Children and Family Services concluded she that the case should be closed, that allegations of abuse were unfounded. There was not enough proof in the face of such denials for everyone to conclude looking into the matter. At the same time, the Los Angeles Police Department opened and closed its own investigation quickly, and concurred that there was insufficient evidence to move forward with any action against Michael Jackson. Then, on April 16th, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department reached its own conclusion. According to recordings in the Sheriff's Department based on the interviews with the children and their father, it was determined that the elements of criminal activity were not met. Therefore, this investigation, there, bleh. Therefore, this investigation was classified as a suspected sexual abuse incident report with no further action required. Case closed. Months later, Santa Barbara District Attorney Tom Sneddon in his press conference to announce Buckles' imminent arrest minimized the significance of the DCFS report and its findings, saying to call it an investigation is a misnomer. It was an interview, plain and simple, and that's all it was. He also claimed that particular department, DCFS, has a lot of problems. It seemed that the district attorney's office has a lot of problems too, because Tom Snedden did not mention that the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department had actually opened and closed its investigation, based entirely at the DCFS's findings. That they were after his money, and thank you for your compliment. Snedden didn't interview the Ariza family. Rather, someone from his office merely spoke on the phone to the social worker who visited them and obtained her notes. The fact that Tom Snedden didn't minimize the DCFS's findings in his press conference, though he had relied on them to close an earlier investigation of Michael Jackson, is important information, and it does little to enhance his case that he still hasn't admitted it.